Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
637 on WMAL. Brian Neiman, Brian Wilson with you. So President Obama going to speak at the UN later today. Claudia Rosett's on the line, former Wall Street Journal writer, currently a journalist in residence at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Now, Claudia was the one who broke the story about the corruption of the UN Oil for Food program.
Right.
She knows a lot about what's going on in the UN. Claudia, good morning. Thanks for coming on the show. We greatly appreciate it.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Before we get into the president's speech today, I do want to ask, because Republicans have criticized the president because he's not speaking to any foreign leaders right now. And there's a lot going on, obviously, in Iran, in Egypt, and, of course, the attacks in Benghazi and in Cairo on Americans there. Is there any real explanation as why the president isn't talking with other foreign leaders at this point?
Well, apparently, or evidently, he found it more important to talk to Barbara Walters on The View. In a briefing at the White House yesterday, spokesman Jay Carney was talking about, well, it's not really important after all. He said they have phones at the White House, that they don't need a world gather, they don't need to go and actually see the foreign leaders to talk to them, which does sort of raise the question of why are we bothering with a UN General Assembly opening at all?
Right.
If in that case, wouldn't it be better not to have Iran's Mahmoud Ahmadinejad walking around Manhattan talking about eliminating Israel? And
we could get him on Skype to do that if it's not important to meet face to face.
Yeah, one would think. In fact, why on earth do we need Ahmadinejad in New York with what is apparently an entourage of something like 140 people?
Yeah, well, Mark Knoller, a very excellent CBS correspondent who covers the White House, asked the question, the last time you went to the UN General Assembly opening, you had 13 bilateral meetings, that is, one-on-one meetings with world leaders. One has to wonder if it was important for him to do last time, why is it not important this time?
It would be very important this time. There are huge things going on in the world generally, especially in the Middle East, and if nothing else, there's one meeting that would be immensely important in dealing with the threat from Iran, and that would be the meeting that the Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Netanyahu, asked for and was refused because the President of the United States has scheduling conflicts. With what? He's not meeting with any other foreign leaders.
Well, I mean, as you mentioned, he did go on The View yesterday, taped it. He's been doing other interviews around the country and has been campaigning, but didn't have the time for Benjamin Netanyahu. Here's the question, though, on that. Why? Why is he not wanting to meet with Netanyahu? And do you have any insights onto what the relationship is like between those two?
Well, it appears to be terrible. And while we can't read President Obama's mind, what I think we can do is understand the message that this sends to the rest of the world, to Iran, to the Middle East generally, in fact, to China, to Russia. And the message is, here is Israel, which isn't just, as the White House has put it, or as President Obama has put it, one of America's closest allies in the Middle East. It is America's closest ally in the Middle East. There is no closer ally in the Middle East. Israel is it. It's a democracy in the Middle East and a long-standing ally of the United States. And what the message here is America is not standing by its real allies. That's a message that resonates all over the Middle East. It emboldens the worst of the worst, and it's also a message that's being read by countries such as Russia and China, which are right now really weighing how much will the U.S. get in their way if they do things like threaten islands, as China is doing in the South China Sea, islands that are also claimed by Japan. Russia is looking at this as it becomes ever more the sort of resurgent dictatorship, and you've got the makings of real problems. This sends a terrible message, not just to Israel or the Middle East, but to the world.
Well, doesn't it embolden Mahmoud Ahmadinejad? I mean, he's in New York saying incredible things like Israel needs to be eliminated, and that comes after a meeting with Ban Ki-moon, after which Ban Ki-moon, sort of warned him, don't get too fiery with your rhetoric. Well, he ignored that. He meets with reporters and he says Israel needs to be eliminated.
Yes, in fact, he said a number of things that are just chilling. This is one of these moments when I was looking through this last night and thinking, at some point, historians are going to be recording this amazing scene where the President of the United States went to the UN General Assembly opening and went on a talk show where he was busy describing himself as eye candy.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, these incredible storm clouds at this point are gathering. And here's another line from Ahmadinejad. The Wall Street Journal has a news story today on what he's up to in New York that ends with him talking about Salman Rushdie, against whom Iran issued a fatwa years ago.
For the Satanic Verses, right, for the book?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And what Ahmadinejad said, without asked rhetorically, where is he now? He was asked, where is he now? He didn't address the question. What Ahmadinejad said was, is he in the U.S.? You shouldn't broadcast this for his own safety.
Wow.
No, that's terrifying. And this is proceeding as diplomacy as usual, while the White House is saying Iran is ever more isolated. Well, their president is in New York City right now. How isolated is that?
Claudia, good to have you on the show. Thanks very much for your time. We appreciate it.